How we all doing? Everybody good? Yes. Best day ever? Yes. Great, great. So I'm glad to be home. I'm home for at least today. It's a good thing. I was in Denver last week. I'll be in Chicago next Sunday, but you come here. This is the place we're supposed to be if we're not in another center somewhere else. So I'm going to go to Chicago and brag on our circles and how we're organized and how we serve and do our sacred service in this community, because that's what that conference is about. So last week in Denver, I was working in the office, but I had an opportunity to hear a neuroscientist talk about having a healthy brain. And it was an interesting conversation, and I enjoyed the presentation, but there was one thing in it that really popped for me. He was listing things you could do to have a healthy brain, and he said, try this question, then what? And what he was talking about was, if I eat that, whatever it is, then what? What happens from me eating that thing? Or if I'm drinking this, or if I'm going to drink this substance, then what? What's that going to do to my body, to my brain, however you want to put it? So he had a very physical presentation around those ideas. But it really popped for me because as a metaphysician, I could see all kinds of opportunities to explore then what, and see what that meant and what that could be in my life. And while I'm talking about drinking, something happened. We had a wonderful wedding here yesterday, and we were drinking our grape juice afterwards, and there were comments, private comments about, so why is it that we don't drink alcohol at the center? Some people were not happy that we couldn't just have wine. And I thought I'd explain that to you in case you don't know. Barbara and I don't drink alcohol, but we're not against alcohol. We don't care if you drink. It's none of our business if you drink alcohol. We don't. But it's not even the fact that we don't, the reason that we don't have it here. The reason we don't have it here is because one of the aspects of this community has to do with people who prefer to be remaining anonymous. And that being so, we want to make sure that they feel safe when they come here. So that's why we don't do it. Because this has to be a safe place for everybody. So the fact that some would love to be able to serve wine at events here, we don't do that because of the issue of making this a safe place for everyone to come. That being said, I want to go back to my story about the neuroscientist and how I heard what he said and I saw the possibilities here. So I started exploring that. What could we apply this to? Well, there's lots to apply it to, and we need to apply it. Because we, as metaphysicians, have this need to be disciplined in our thinking. And this is a great tool to cause us to recognize that everything that happens in our lives happens because of something that we either thought or said or did. Everything in our lives has to do with that. Now, people in general, not you, but the other people, tend to be lazy. They tend to be lazy by letting happen whatever happens and then dealing with it. Oh, this thing happened. Look at this mess in my life. I got to deal with this. And they do. And they just think that's the way life is organized, that you have stuff happen, or other names. You could put another word in there. And that's just the way life is. But we don't have that luxury because we know better. And what we know is, and the way we teach it is, everything that's happening to us is because of what we thought in the past. But when we organize our thought that way, when we think about what's happening to me now is because of what I thought in the past, or what I said in the past, or what I did in the past, we don't have any power because we can't do a doggone thing about what happened in the past. So we have to start thinking of it in a different structure. We have to start thinking about what I'm thinking or saying or doing right now is creating my future. Now we can do something about it because we have complete control over the present. Absolute control over the present. That's where we want to focus our attention. Now, I am one that really loves to play in the future. And you get in trouble doing that. You can think too much about the future. You can get all caught up in what's out there and not be present in the moment. Sometimes thinking about the future causes some fear to come up because something may not turn out the way we'd like it to. So we get anxious about it. And if we play that game, we're back in the same rat race of creating a thought or words or an action that is going to influence what's going to happen in the future. That's what fear will get you. So we have to be not only aware that what we're thinking and saying and doing right now is creating something that is going to move us into the future with that experience, by thinking that, we're still in that situation of not taking control if we have any anxiety or fear or upset or confusion or any of those kind of things around it. So it comes down to being disciplined. It comes down to how much can we be disciplined about our thinking in the moment. Different people teach this in different ways. Some say you only have to get to 51%. If you can get 51% of your thinking and your emotions wrapped around those thoughts into a more, what is called positive essence, that you'll get that as a return. Maybe that's true. But my experience is that if you shoot for 51% and you end up with 43%, you will not be elected in this country. So you got to think bigger. God knows you got to get past 47%. So, but we don't talk about politics here. Just metaphysics. So, this idea of how to structure ourselves, I think we have to shoot for 100%. We have to say, all of my thoughts are going to carry me into the future. Not some of them, not whatever part that I really want to focus on, but all of them. Which holds us accountable to do things differently. Different than we thought we had to. Because this idea of creating a future that works for us requires that we have an equivalent thought now. And wanting won't get us there. Yearning won't get us there. Begging won't get us there. There's nobody to petition for this. There's simply to know. So our work must be to be clear in this moment about who we are. Now here's where it gets a little weird. We think that it only has to do with our perception of ourselves, and it does have a lot to do with our perception of ourselves. But some of us think we can get away with judging the other person, and that won't influence what's going on in my life, because that's about them. If you have the thought about another person, it's influencing your life. I have a wonderful colleague that once showed up for a keynote address. He had jeans with big holes in the legs and a really sloppy t-shirt on. He came up with a cup of coffee in his mind, and he said, "What you're thinking about me right now is creating something in your life." And he was right. He was absolutely right, and he demonstrated it brilliantly. Because the thought we're having about somebody else is not influencing them. It's influencing us. It's creating in our life. The law does not take our thought and impose it upon another person. It takes our thought and brings it into our life. Now, we can be in agreement with someone else to include them in our thinking. But that's by agreement. Everything that comes out of our mouth, everything that we do in action, everything that we think that nobody else heard, is influencing the experience of our lives. So if we walk around calling somebody else stupid, guess what? We're going to be acting stupidly. If we find fault in somebody else, others will find fault in us. In a grand and glorious scale. Because the universe does not care whether it's a wonderful thing or a terrible thing. The universe doesn't play that game. The universe deals in thoughts, in energy, because the thought is energy. That's how the universe is functioning. That's what we know about our metaphysics. So that whatever energy we are passing into the universe, and we're not separate from it, it's all about us, is coming straight back to us. Deborah brought me a balloon the other day, and it was lovely. It said, "It's all about you." Guess what? It is. Not in an egotistical way. It's all about me because I'm creating my experience, and you're creating your experience. No exceptions. So how powerful could this notion be? Then what? Could we use that as a tool to kind of set ourselves up to be aware that the thought we're having now is having an impact on what's about to happen? Today, tomorrow, how far out do you want it to be? It doesn't really matter. We don't actually get to choose that. I do know that the more intent we are on that, the more emotion we put around it, seems to bring it into my life faster. And what I've learned over time is because I can be reactive. I'm not telling you I've got this all worked out. I can be as reactive as anyone else I know. I'm so aware of my ability to be reactive that I have compared it to going on to autopilot. That's that laziness thing. Just go on autopilot. Think whatever you want. Do whatever you want, and then deal with it later. Well, that'll get you into a mess every single time. I mean, I'm so clear about who it is, I have named my autopilot. Pontius autopilot. And you know how that worked out. So the thing is that I don't go on autopilot anymore. I stay present as much as I can. And if I fall into that little trap and I go, what do? I go, no, that's not the way I want to do this. And I redo it immediately. Right away. Don't wait, please don't wait. Don't think it's okay to have that for a half hour and then do it. You got to do it immediately. And you don't just go, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It does matter. Because it's creating something in your life, that thought that you had. You are so amazingly powerful. You are so friggin' powerful in your life. And the thing is that being that powerful, we have to act like it. We have to know that the things that we say are creating something in our lives. I've said things from the stage, and there are people who won't come in this room anymore. I have to live with that every day. I have to recognize that. So what do I learn from that? I learn not to do that again. To think before I speak. Even if it seems really appropriate in the moment. If it's in judgment, if it's hurtful, if it's creating something, an outcome that I can't see, then I need to stop and see it. Because then what if I do that? So my job is to pay attention to every single thing that I see, every single thing that I do. And that's what makes the difference. That's what draws me into a deeper understanding of who I am and holds me personally accountable. The universe is already holding me accountable because it's reflecting back to me exactly who I am. My job is to be aware of that. And by being aware of that, now I can do something about it, and I never, ever, ever can feel like a victim. Because I'm creating my experience. And you know, how many times do you want to go, no, I didn't do that. That person was incredibly rude, or that person hit my car, or that person did something, and somehow I'm the victim of that? Sorry, that doesn't hold any water. Not metaphysically, it doesn't. You may be able to give all kinds of facts on why you didn't do that, but you did. And that's not to blame yourself, because God knows the last person you want to blame is you. When you blame yourself, the universe says, okay, boom, then you get to be blamed for lots of stuff. So don't buy into blame at any level, with anyone. In fact, I got to tell you, most people I've ever seen blame somebody else has their own issues about being self-blamed, about seeing themselves at fault. And that's their way to try to keep it apart from them, is to push that blame off on somebody else. To push the sense of guilt that they're holding off on, make somebody else guilty, as though that'll take it away, but it won't. It'll just make more of it. You focus on those things, you get more of it. Whatever you focus on, you get more of it. So the work is always to pay attention to what you're thinking. And be asking yourself this lovely little question that I found. Then what? If I have this thought, if I hold this idea in mind, if I say those words, if I do this thing, then what's going to happen? Do I want to have that happen? Because you know it's going to happen. It's never a secret. If you'll pay attention and not fall into that trap, something wonderful will happen. If you'll stay clear that you really are on a path, that where you're awakening, where you're surrounded in love, where everyone that comes into your experience brings you something wonderful, then that's what you get. And the rest of it doesn't matter. That's your life. That's the life that I want. That's where I'm going. So many years ago, I found a little tool that really helped me with this, and I wanted to share it with you. And it looks like this. Well, actually, let me read you mine so that you get that as we do this. I no longer indulge in the debilitating act of self-judgment, which in the past I used to deny the absolute perfection of my life. Instead, I accept and embrace the beauty and magnificence of my life now. I wrote that many years ago, and I carry it around with me, and I'm reading it now because I didn't want to screw it up. But I do know what it is. So here's the formula for that. I no longer indulge in the debilitating act of. What is the debilitating act? For me, it was self-judgment. What is it for you? What is it for you? What is the debilitating act that you indulge in that keeps you from being all that you can be? from having all that you can have, from doing all that you can do. Which in the past used to. You got to say it in the past. It's not happening now. I'm letting this go. This is over. Now, does that mean you never fall back into that debilitating act? Probably not. But when you do, you spot it really quick. So what did it used to do to you? How did it turn out? Probably not very well. Instead, what do you do instead? You can't just say the first sentence and not the second one, because it leaves you in that place of, oh, that's how it used to be. You've got to replace it with something. So instead, what do you do? So I invite you to take this formula and create something in your life. Create something in your life better than it used to be. We all got that thing. We've all got some debilitating thing that's been holding us back. And this is our opportunity to do something different. So it's up to you. What do you want to do? So while you're thinking about that, I want to share my Holmes quote for the day. I love this one. The power of choice with which we are endowed is either our greatest blessing or our greatest curse. Properly understood, it can lift us to the heights. Misunderstood, it can drag us to the depths. We are free to choose anything we wish, but we must accept the responsibility for our choices, because the law of mind will create our experiences according to our choices. Every time you ask yourself that question, then what? You're a choice. Every time you ask yourself that question, then what? You are at choice. And if you're conscious, you'll choose something that works. If you're not, and you're misunderstanding the concept of choice, you may find yourself back in that same mess you were in before. Let's choose to do something consciously. Let's choose to live our lives awake and see how wonderful life can be. I love you very much. Thank you.